guys, welcome to Art with Ian. Today we're going to be talking about creating our lights using the overlay layer mode. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so in the last video we talked about creating shadows with the multiply layer mode. We created these two shadow passes. And now in this video we're going to talk about using the overlay mode to create our lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. And I'm going to hold down Alt on the keyboard and hover over the new layer and Shadow 2 and click, and that will clip this new layer down with the others. I'm gonna name this Light and change my blending mode to Overlay. So I did warm shadows, which means I want to use cool light. So I'm going to come over here and get a color. I'm going to come into kind of like where you would think of to find sky blue, because it's outside that this character is existing. And I'm going to go like a really quite set or desaturated, like a mostly gray, kind of a blue. We'll try that out and see how that works for putting the light in. And using the same brush I used for my shadows, which is a kind of like a chalky brush that I like, I'm going to start thinking about the broader shapes just like I did with the shadows and start putting light in. So we know the light source is this arrow shape, so it's coming down over my shoulder, my right shoulder. So all this is going to go into light here. This is in light. Definitely the top of this cheekbone goes into light. And just like I did with the shadows, this definitely gets some light on the nose, the bridge here, and then out here. And just like I did with the shadows, I'm going to use a soft eraser to kind of push my lights back a little bit, so they might be a little bit hard at first, the light, but I just want to see how far I can take it. I like to, it's kind of like a sculpting thing, I kind of like to see how far I can push it before I pull it back to where I want it. It's just the way I like to work. This gets light here, and then it starts to kind of turn away. This might get a little bit of light just right along there. This could get some light here. And then putting some lights kind of against the shadows from the hair will help to really tell the story of that the light is really hitting this hair, and that's why that shadow is getting cast there. So putting the light around the shadow usually really helps to kind of fully sell the feeling of the shadow existing. Go a little harder with this up here. And then in here, kind of need to get in between that ear, kind of the wrinkles along the ear that I put in. Excuse me. And then this would catch light. See how it's turning up towards the light? This ear is pretty much in shadow. But I left a cast shadow here just to put like a tiny bit of the ear into the light, like at the very end, like there. This can go into light. And this here. I want this to feel kind of muzzled out, like the mouth kind of muzzles out. So by putting this edge here into kind of into light a bit, that'll help you'll feel that shape like it's coming out and around a bit. Maybe a little bit here, but not as much. Okay, so that's basically our first pass of light. Now I want to do one that is I think I might do one more set to overlay. So let's create one more layer. I should have called this light one. I was thinking I was only going to do one overlay and then one normal over the top, but let's call this light 1 and this light 2. Go ahead and set it to overlay. And now we need to come in and get slightly brighter with our light source. So I'm just going to come in, come up a bit, not too much. I'm also going to go slightly warmer now, which means coming down towards the greener blues. Because as it gets more into the light and less just from the sky, it's more impacted by the sun, which is the actually hot light source. So then we warm the blue up, we make it a little bit lighter, and we'll start putting in some of our brighter light. Where I kind of want it to look like is getting hit that little bit extra. These are the areas that are either the highest points or the most perpendicular to the light. So if you have light coming down like this, a plane facing like this is going to catch full light, whereas a plane like this will catch light that's coming at it at an angle and not nearly as potent. So I have to kind of look at my shapes here and go and decide what I'm seeing that's clearly the most perpendicular to the light and the high points. This here along this cheekbone, definitely. I started doing a little bit of shadow work for some textures also in the last video. So I'll just kind of play off of that a tiny bit. I'm not going to go crazy with it. I don't want this to turn into like a 2-hour video where I just sit and noodle. There will be other videos where we go through the painting process more in depth, like that kind of way. Here at the end of the nose, definitely want to get a bright hot spot there on the bottom lip here. On the chin where it first turns out of this part of your chin right here. We'll catch some hot light, probably this here. These couple spots. Maybe a little bit here on the ear. Hit the hair. It's time to start bringing this hair to life a little bit. Now just because my arrow's right here doesn't mean the light's actually literally right there. The light's way up and so this stuff, the hair that's above this arrow is still treated as the same as, you know, the rest of the subject. Get the bottom of these eyes glowing a bit now. I really want the eyes to be something that catches the viewer like almost quite immediately, really. Maybe just to do a little bit of texture type of stuff. Remember, I'll be coming in with my soft eraser and easing some of this stuff back. Which I'm going to do now, in fact. So I've got my soft eraser, and I'm just pushing a little bit of this back to get it to sit in there in the piece and not feel overly pushed or like I don't want anything quite jumping out and looking uneven or anything like that. Okay, so now I'm going to create a layer on top of all of this, and I'm going to I'm going to call it bright light. I'm pretty much going to swap over now from blue to yellow, but I'm going to go like way up, almost white, like super, super, super bright. And I'll take the airbrush. Forgot I need to clip this down. There we go. I just want this upper area here to feel almost washed in light brightness. That's why I didn't put it on a layer mode. I actually want it to cover the texture. I want it to cover the pattern that I've put in here. I want it. When light gets so bright, you can't actually determine what you're seeing. It's just bright. That's kind of what I'm going for a little bit right here. Okay, so now would be the time to put some kind of a background on here. I'm going to do something really quick. I'll go, since I've got like kind of warm shadows and cool light, I'll go with like some kind of a warmish background, I think, or I'll try that. Create another layer, go super dark, change to my airbrush, zoom out some, blow my brush up and just hit this I'd probably do. That should be okay for now, hey? All right. So I want to talk very briefly about bounce light and ambient light. Bounce light would be where bright light is hitting the subject and then that light bounces off of it and hits another surface nearby. And ambient light would be light from kind of around the character that's not the actual main light source. In this case, it would be blue sky. Now I realize I just made like a totally brown background, brown orange, but the character is still lit as if it's outside, and that's what I'm going for, trying to accomplish with the lighting. So I'm just trying to play like a warm, cool feel in the image, like the colors. Like I might even actually go a little more orangey, slightly more orangey with this background by creating a new layer real quick. Set it to overlay. Bring in like a yellowy orange kind of a color. And just kind of warm it up, and then I can just turn the opacity down some. Like that. And, alright. So, real quick, let's go in and clean up a few of my edges. Now that we have the background on, we can see them. I'm not sure why that's... Oh, it's because the other group was turned on. It doesn't matter how many years. Okay, so just clean this up a little bit. And I've already, on the shadow video, I kind of left a few little areas of bounce light, like you can see, or this will be ambient light eventually, along here, under here. On the nose I didn't actually leave any though, so we can go in there and we can actually paint in a little bit of bounce light. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to create a new layer. This one is not clipped to the local color layer. And I'm going to pick a color. Needs to be pretty dark still. Maybe from like there. And go in with my chalky brush. And I just want to kind of define a little bit of his underside of his nose where it would be catching light from here on his lip. Kind of like around the nostril a little bit. This is just a nice way. Bounce light is a nice excuse to not let your designs get lost. Like, this is probably more bounce light than you would see a lot of times in real life. And that's okay. That's the whole point of art versus, you know, nothing you're seeing here would exist in real life. This creature doesn't exist. So take some artistic license and don't let reality stifle your creativity. Just use what's real as an excuse to make things look the way you want them to look. Like, bounce light is real, so use it to your advantage. Okay. I'm not going to go in and do too much of this. There might be a little bit of bounce light under these eyes. Might make this a little bit more obvious bounce light here. And on this side. Definitely get a little bounce light here. Just from this chin right here. So I'm not going to actually go all the way out here. I'm just going to come right here, and then when it gets to out here, it'll kind of transition and become ambient light. A little bounce light in the chin. Look at all this hot light right here. Well, it's cool light, but look at all this bright light. That would pop right back up to the bottom of his chin and the bottom of his lip. Maybe just along here a little bit. Okay, and then really quick, we'll do a little bit of ambient light, and then we'll call this one. For the ambient light, I want to go with like a blue and pretty gray, but not too gray. We'll just try this and see how it looks and go from there. That's pretty blue, but I can always push it back a bit if I need to. That might be too blue. Too bright, I think, maybe. Let's go a little grayer, a little darker. I'll do the rest. And now you can see how doing this, I'm actually going to put this over the top of everything, over the top of my sketch and over the top of everything. You can see how the ambient light can be used to bring back detail that has gotten potentially lost in the shadows as you put your shadows in and whatnot. I can put some on the side of his nostril here and here on the nose. Now as you get closer and closer to the main source of light, this ambient light you'll never see it. There's just too much bright light for this. This light only shows up in the shadows because that's where the main light source is dimmed out enough for it to actually be visible. Just following my already, I'm just following the decisions I've already made here. Not really making any major decisions with the design. Hit this one side of this hair a little bit. This will kind of help the hair feel a little bit more alive too. Obviously, if this was like normal painting, I would probably spend quite a while. And after I'm done with the video, I might actually take my time going and actually finalize this thing because I like it. There might be like a form shape. The form, sometimes when forms dip and then they come back out, they'll catch light, even though it's actually it's not really a big major form change. It's like still enough to catch some light. So I'll just do that kind of a thing, and then when I zoom out, it's highly likely that'll get pushed back some. But we'll leave it for now. Maybe just a bit getting up into this area here, a bit on his eye. That definitely helps the eye to feel like it's actually coming out to some degree. Maybe a little bit here. A little bit there. And then we don't want it to feel too flat. So get in here and zoom my brush, or increase the size of my brush, and in some of these areas I'm gonna let it turn, show that the forms turn that little bit more by not having it just be kind of a line of blue, but actually have it kind of cascading onto the form a little bit more gradually. Okay. There we go. Now we grab our eraser and just ease some of this back. Especially where the forms turn down, those are the best places to really push, like get the light to kind of dim out, and then when they turn upward, that's the best place to leave them potent. And that way you don't end up with something that feels like you just drew a line along the side of the shape or the form or whatever, you know. Okay, so I think I'm going to call this one as far as the video is concerned. I'll probably finish this thing off and post it on Instagram. Don't forget to follow me there, Art with Ian. It's my Instagram. And yeah, so I hope you guys got something out of these last two videos, the creating shadow one that I did before, and then this one, creating light. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share it with your friends. Make sure you ring that bell for notifications of future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.